Good stuff. So I think maybe we will now look into some of the reasons about the ecosystem, Andrew. If you could give us some background on what the Northern Irish ecosystem is that's relevant to fintech, etc.
Particularly the companies here at Stone & Chalk.
Yeah, for Australian and New Zealand companies, for scale-ups, that, you know, why would they consider Northern Ireland?
Well, I think if we look at it purely on the basis of numbers for a moment, the financial service and professional services sector in Northern Ireland employs just shy of 40,000 people, and around 1 in 4 of those roles are technology roles. So there's already a large base of companies here working within that sector. I think one of the things that I have found since I came into the role is the breadth and diversity of the fintech sector in Northern Ireland, because typically that sector, the ecosystem, will comprise of different clusters. So you've maybe got your startup and your scale up sector within that ecosystem. You've got your more established large financial services companies that are there to provide funding and support, digital hubs that are there to provide co-working space and additional support for startup and scale up, and then very importantly the education sector as well. So what I have seen over the last year is that a lot of the ingredients for a world-class fintech sector in Northern Ireland are here, and we have the accolades. Northern Ireland has been ranked as one of the top 3 locations, fintech future locations, behind just London and Singapore, which is pretty good for a relatively small region, but also regarded as one of the top global locations for FDI fintech projects, and for recognized globally for some of our tech clusters as well. So I think a lot of the ingredients are there. And what I'm also seeing at the moment is a real sense of momentum, I think, around the sector in Northern Ireland. We have an industry body called the FinTech Northern Ireland Association, which is representative of the sector right across Northern Ireland. And we're actually, and I know Australia has something similar. I think New Zealand has something similar as well. So you've got these industry-led bodies which are there to help propel the sector in each of the different regions. So there's a lot of really good things happening within the Northern Ireland sector at the moment, and I can probably talk a little bit more, but if there's a particular area that you'd like me to focus in on, I'm happy to do that.
Well, maybe we should show the slides of the fintech ecosystem for Northern Ireland.
Yeah. And this was actually developed as a cluster slide, which was actually developed by NI FinTech, which is the Northern Ireland equivalent of FinTech Australia. Here we are.
Okay. Yeah, some impressive names there. I mean, I mean, I've been involved in fintech for about 10 years, and I wasn't aware of that Northern Ireland was such an important center, globally for certain technical skills. So here we are. So I mean, you can see Lightyear. So Roger's company is on the list there on the right of your screen. There's Lightyear. So Andrew, maybe you can just give us a little bit more background of the different sectors here of the ecosystem.
Yeah, so I think, David, when we this is the map that was produced by the FinTech Northern Ireland Association, and I think this is version 1.8, so it's been refreshed all the time. And I think it's not until you actually sit down and start to plot this map out that you realise just how many players there are in the fintech sector right across Northern Ireland, and it's not just Belfast. Derry, Londonderry is Northern Ireland's second city. And that in the northwest region is developing its own as cluster as well, up and around there. So really, as I kind of mentioned before, you've got maybe the core fintech sector, and those are the companies maybe on the right hand side, and then on the left hand side you've got the broader fintech ecosystem. And actually, interestingly, I saw a map something like this produced by, I think it was KPMG for the Australian fintech ecosystem. And granted, of course, your map is much larger, as you would probably expect it to be. But I think this is I think this gives a really good view into the depth of the fintech sector, which has grown actually, I would say, organically over the last 10 to 12 years. But what I'm seeing now is much more of a focus, a sectoral focus on how we can continue to support the sector. And our the Minister for our Economy, Diane Dodds, has recently come out to recognise fintech as one of the sectors that she wants to focus on. As we kind of hopefully turn the corner on COVID and start to reignite the economy.
I should add also there, looking at this map, I can see another Northern Irish company. This is one of our Indigenous companies, First Derivatives. They have an office in Sydney. They're actually the largest single Northern Irish employer now in Australia. They've ramped up to about 70 people. So they're definitely a good ecosystem to start and expand out of. One other thing there, actually, Andrew, this could be a good leeway, and I can see we talk about Catalyst is in there as well, which I guess is the Northern Irish equivalent of Stone and Chalk. Andrew, can you just talk us through the environment there?
Yeah, so Catalyst have a physical space just down in the Titanic Quarter, which is only 5 or 10 minutes from the centre of Belfast. Where they provide a co-working space for startup and scale up companies, not just fintech, although we're identified here as fintech, and I'll talk about that in a second. So they provide that co-working space, and they also provide a lot of support for those companies as well. Specifically around the fintech hub, this was a partnership between Catalyst and Danske Bank. And what they did was they set up a co-working space actually in Danske Bank's headquarters right in the centre of Belfast, and they call it the FinTech Hub. And again, it was to encourage and to provide a co-working space for those really early stage fintech companies. But the other thing, and obviously very, very cleverly, is that you're there within a large financial services institution, so you have access to that level of expertise. But also a way to maybe get your early stage products or services into an incumbent and maybe start to use that as a test and learn bed as well. So yeah, that's where the FinTech Hub was born from. And in fact, Danske Bank are part of the Northern Ireland FinTech Association.
Oh, we're very familiar with Danske Bank.
Yeah, I'm Danish, so. But also, you've got RegTech as well. So FinTech is covering more than just FinTech. It's covering RegTech and obviously cybersecurity, AI, and data analytics. You've got a number of skills in Northern Ireland.